Imagine yourself beneath the vibrant streets of Paris, a city celebrated for its glittering avenues and monuments to light. But far below the surface, hidden from the gaze of millions, lies a silent labyrinth of stone corridors and shadowy chambers. This is the Paris few ever glimpse, a world shaped by centuries of history, mystery, and, as one group of workers was about to discover, startling secrets buried in the dark. The year was 1974. In the historic 6th arrondissement, an old apartment building, its facade weathered by generations, was undergoing extensive renovation. As workers began clearing the building's cellar, their tools struck not just earth, but the edge of something far older. The sound was curious, hollow, an echo from another time. When the dust settled, they found themselves staring at a sealed stone archway, its edges worn smooth by the passage of ages. Driven by curiosity, the crew pried open the barrier. The stale air that rushed out carried a profound chill, as if the room beyond had been holding its breath for 200 years. Flashlights cut through the darkness, revealing a secret chamber, untouched since the late 18th century. The walls were lined with rough-hewn limestone, the floor littered with debris, broken pottery, rusted metal, and, most disturbingly, human bones. In one corner, a pile of skulls stared out from the gloom, their empty eye sockets bearing silent witness to the forgotten tragedies of Paris. This was no ordinary crypt. It was an ossuary, a makeshift resting place hastily assembled during the darkest days of the French Revolution. As political unrest consumed the city, Paris's cemeteries overflowed. Bodies were moved in secret to underground vaults and tunnels, many of them the remains of prisoners from the conciergerie, the infamous prison where thousands awaited their fate at the guillotine. Here, beneath the feet of modern Parisians, the city's turbulent past had been preserved in chilling stillness, a stark reminder that the elegant boulevards are built upon a foundation of countless secrets. But these were not the only ghosts haunting the City of Lights. The discovery in 1974 seemed to stir something in the city's collective memory, awakening tales of a darkness that was far more recent. To understand the fear that would soon grip the capital, we must first step back into the gaslit streets of 19th century Paris, a world of elegance and squalor, where the city's criminal underworld first honed its deadly craft. This was an era of stark contrasts. While aristocrats held lavish balls in opulent townhouses, seamstresses were found lifeless in the narrow alleys of Montmartre. Victims came from all walks of life, their stories filling the daily papers and revealing the dangers that crossed every class line. The police, still developing their methods, scoured crime scenes for clues. A footprint in the mud, a torn scrap of fabric, a single button clutched in a cold hand. Each detail was a tantalizing lead, but crime-solving was an art form, not yet a science. Inspectors like the legendary François Vidocq, a reformed criminal turned detective, navigated a labyrinth of false leads and unreliable witnesses. Vidocq pioneered the use of disguises and informants, blurring the line between lawman and outlaw to hunt his prey. Clues were whispered in smoky cafes or scrawled in code on the walls of the catacombs. And then there was the underworld itself, a shadowy realm ruled by the Apaches, fierce street gangs who terrorized the slums of Lafayette with their own brutal code. In this world, secrets were a currency, and life was cheap. This legacy of crime festered, evolving with the city. By the 20th century, it would produce a monster whose name would become a legend. During the German occupation of the 1940s, as Paris was shrouded in uncertainty, a new kind of predator emerged. His methods were so calculated, so gruesome, he would earn a chilling moniker, the Spider of Paris. His name was Marcel Petiot, a seemingly mild-mannered doctor with a sinister secret. Petiot's signature was a macabre masterpiece of deceit. He preyed on the desperate, often refugees seeking escape from Nazi persecution, luring them with the promise of safe passage out of France. He posed as a savior, a beacon of false hope. But behind the facade, he was meticulously constructing a web. His victims were ushered into a soundproofed room in his townhouse at 21 Rue Le Sueur. There, instead of freedom, they met their doom, often by poison gas. Once his victims were dead, Petiot systematically erased them. He dismembered their bodies, burning the remains in his basement furnace or dissolving them in quicklime. When authorities finally broke down his door, they discovered a scene of unimaginable horror. Charred bones, heaps of lime, and the lingering stench of death. The press seized upon the eerie parallels to a spider's predatory patience. Thus, the legend of the Spider of Paris was born, a killer who ensnared the vulnerable, drained them of life, and left behind a tangled web of death. Marcel Petiot was eventually caught, tried, and executed. His reign of terror was over, but his legend endured. And legends have a way of inspiring echoes. 3 decades later, in the 1970s, the same decade those bones from the Revolution were unearthed, a new shadow fell across the city. A series of disappearances began, quiet and unsettling. People vanished from their homes, from their routines, leaving behind only questions. There were no obvious connections, no clear motives. But as the number of missing grew, a chilling pattern began to emerge, one that felt unnervingly familiar. The press, remembering the horrors of the 40s, resurrected a name from the past. A new spider, they claimed, was spinning a web in Paris. This time, however, the killer was a phantom. The investigation, which began with a surge of optimism, soon faltered. Detectives found themselves retracing the same steps, combing over evidence that led nowhere. Promising leads unraveled into dead ends. Witnesses who had reported suspicious figures wavered under scrutiny, their stories shifting like sand. The pressure mounted, and behind closed doors, morale plummeted. Investigators revisited crime scenes repeatedly, but found nothing. Forensic reports came back inconclusive. The case files grew thicker, but the narrative grew thinner, burdened by contradictions and gaps. Paranoia began to creep through the city, a cold poison seeping into the community. In town hall meetings and local diners, conversations buzzed with rumors. Was the perpetrator someone known? A neighbor? A friend? Residents began locking their doors, eyeing strangers with suspicion. The city that had survived revolutions and occupations now felt besieged from within. The investigation, intended to bring closure, had instead sown widespread anxiety. The line between vigilance and paranoia blurred, casting a long shadow over Paris. Unlike the case of Marcel Petiot, there would be no dramatic capture, no trial, no answers. As weeks turned into months and months into years, the trail went cold. The disappearances stopped as mysteriously as they had begun, leaving behind only a legacy of terror and a string of unsolved cases. The new Spider of Paris was never caught. The web was never untangled. The case's impact reverberated for years, woven into the fabric of Parisian society. It served as a grim reminder that even in the modern age, darkness could descend without warning. It exposed the vulnerabilities of a great city and the terrifying possibility that a predator could move among millions, unseen and unknown. Today, Paris remains the city of light, but beneath the glow, the secrets remain. From the forgotten bones of revolutionaries resting in a sealed cellar to the lingering ghost of an uncaught killer from the 1970s, the city holds its stories close. Some mysteries are solved, their monsters brought to justice, but others, like the second Spider of Paris, simply fade back into the shadows, leaving behind nothing but unanswered questions and the chilling knowledge that some webs can never be broken.